A very big afternoon or good afternoon, a big good afternoon out to all of our attendees. Those of you who are attending via Zoom, and those of you who are watching via Facebook, thank you for joining us. And also, who will be watching via YouTube. Thank you for joining us. This is our final Q&A session, Q&A 10 for this semester for the unit PG428 PNG foreign policy or foreign policy in PNG, which is offered in the program, the Bachelor of Arts program in PNG and International Studies from the Divine Word University or at Divine Word University. So this is our final Q&A session for the semester. And we once again thank Mr. Ako for sharing with us his insight and great knowledge about our foreign service, foreign policy, and the various issues that are connected to international relations and foreign policy. So for this final discussion, we'll delve into sports diplomacy, which is an emerging trend in foreign policy, PNG's foreign policy, and in particular, we'll focus on rugby league. Apart from rugby league, we have other sports which are now becoming important. The future featuring prominently in different countries and their bilateral relations. So between China and PNG, we have table tennis and athletics between US, PNG. Apart from rugby league, we also have cricket and Aussie rules football, AFL. And soccer is also another big sport that is used by countries to promote good bilateral relations. So for this session, we'll just focus on rugby league and we will listen to Mr. Ako and his knowledge about what is currently happening in this particular space. So we have 3 questions as usual for our Q&A session. So we'll start off with the first one. Our first question to Mr. Ako. The first question is, how can Papua New Guinea or PNG leverage rugby league to build stronger bilateral relations with key regional allies like Australia and New Zealand? Mr. Ako. We're having some technical issues, so just letting you people know.
Thank you, Mr. Aguirre. Thank you, Mr. Aguirre, and good afternoon, everyone. You can hear me?
Yes, Mr. Ako,
Can
loud
you hear
and
me?
clear. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, so rugby league through sports diplomacy. At yesterday's launching of the PNG Australia Development Partnership Plan 2024-2029, it encompasses sports diplomacy as well in addition to the other programs. And I'll come from the angle of the Australia, where rugby league, our rugby league focus is. And Australia has a sports diplomacy strategy that's aimed at connecting people and institutions, enhancing sports for development, showcasing Australia and supporting innovation and integrity. The first strategy was launched in 2015, which established sports linkages and development programs across the Indo-Pacific, so including us and the rest of the Pacific Island. The subsequent Sports Diplomacy 2030, which has been developed now, builds on this success. Now, we have the question about how PNG can leverage rugby league. We post that, and then we look at it from one angle, from the Australian side. And Australia, through its sports diplomacy programs, such as the League Long Life, LBL, which is a rugby league building tool, which is existing for rugby league organizations in PNG, where the NRL staff assist with the development of the sports across all levels. PNG hunters, they provide training for PNG journalists to help improve their coverage and reporting. And this was done in the 2015 Pacific Games, where 30 PNG journalists were provided that professional development. It participated in delivering the PM's President 13 in 2015, and I think onwards by assisting with ground logistics and community activations, and also promoting female participation in the sports. One of the other programs that the Australians are using is also the PNG NRL Bid program, through which the PNG NRL Bid Academy runs. And then this covers 720 participants as of this year. I think 16-week program, 6 locations, 4 age groups, 25% female participation, and 17 female players now selected for the inaugural Santos Cup teams. Now, that's from the Australian side. Now, the question is very, very important, because from the PNG end, how can we leverage this for our interest? We are not as rich as Australia. So in terms of supporting other regions, with other countries within the region, is a great dream. But very realistic process would be maybe looking at infrastructure development in schools, connecting that sports diplomacy, connecting the Australian sports diplomacy strategy with the age groups which it covers, and that covers most school-age kids, children. We look at community engagement activities, sports, and then you look at maybe hard infrastructure such as building sports stadiums and everything. See, building sports stadium is a single activity, but then the supply chain that goes into the sports stadium. When we in one of our earlier lectures, we talked about road connectivity. So if you build road and the stadium, then obviously you must have power, you must have water, you must have trade stores will bloom along the roads. The whole supply chain facilities will be there. Have this been thought about? It's a very, very important question which Mr. Aguirre asked. Did we enshrine this in our new foreign policy white paper? Where this part of the strategy of using sport diplomacy, but you look, Australia is using it very, very smart. Former rugby stars who are very much revered in Papua New Guinea by running these agendas. You have Mr. Benning doing his sports diplomacy, and then all the former Fijian rugby league players like Petero, Seva, and all the others supporting that initiative. So the question is, how can we do leverage this? And I was thinking along the lines of infrastructure development, but then once it got under the sports diplomacy strategy and its program, so does it sidetrack into the infrastructure facility? And then it joins a host of all the other projects there, which are then prioritized. When we look at those programs, there's lots of opportunities for Papua New Guineans, for Papua New Guinea in particular. But how are we leveraging what we have? Our bilum, which we're supposed to be filling up with all the goods which we go and trade, are we filling it up? So my thoughts would be on infrastructure development in schools, and then using the schools as a hub, de developing the community around the school to support that rugby league initiative. And then if you throw in a stadium along the way, then it completes the whole supply chain initiative. And then in that way, it's indirect benefits would be the promotion and establishment of SMEs to support those hubs. And then it ties in very well with the government's economic corridor concepts. And because you and I are not privy to the shooting in the wind and guessing, but hoping that this will considered in that particular activity. I'll stop there and open it up for you again, Mr. Yeager.
Thank you, Mr. Ako. I'll move on to the second question for today. We started off with the first question, and we have two more questions. And now I'll move on to the third question. Thank you for sharing your answer for the first question. And also apologies for the technical issues. We have issues with connectivity and bandwidth. So I hope our viewers, our listeners, you are taking note of some of the things that Mr. Ako shared with us, and apologies for the disruption. Mr. Ako, the second question is asking about the potential. What potential does rugby league as a sport have in advancing Papua New Guinea's soft power strategy within the broader Pacific community? So how can we as a country, through our foreign policy, use rugby league to advance our soft power or increase our soft power within the region, Pacific region?
These are all questions which we're asking. Where how can PNG influence through appeal and attraction? And then I'd like to add a couple more questions on it. How influential is Papua New Guinea in the PIF and the Melanesian Spearhead Group to push the sports agenda? Can we fund rugby league activities in the MSG? And the MSC is made up of soccer. MSC is mostly soccer-dominated countries. The Solomon Islands and Vanuatu, they play their trade in soccer better than the other one. Or can we work with Fiji, Samoa, Tonga, Cook Islands, and the other smaller Pacific Island countries who play rugby league to use it to complement our trade relations? Those are some of the opportunities I see where there's a great potential for PNG to do that, but then we put it into our sports diplomacy strategy encompasses the Pacific Islands. So do we duplicate there to do we ride with it and see how well we can get it from. Everybody in the Pacific Islands knows that the rugby is the number one sport in PNG. That's the same. And all because they have a junior development program which is paid by its NRL stars. And when we see on YouTube, we see in YouTube where NRL clubs go at the end of the season to Fiji to scout new players. You look at have a look at Tui Kamikamida's YouTube and where he says that he was playing under 17 when Parramatta went and scouted him. It was the first time he left home to come to Sydney for Fiji. And the same goes for Samoa and maybe. But for Fiji, that's becoming a common story. When are we going to have those type of stories here? We only had two of those stories, and both have gone all the way to play and make their name in one particular club in Melbourne. Why can't we have a lot of those stories? So Uh, the issue, the main undertaking would be in terms of our foreign policy and where we can leverage our soft power to push this agenda. You know, and those agendas can be pushed through the festival of arts. You know, what is stopping us from having a rugby league nine-a-side tournament on the margins of the festival of arts to push our agenda, fully funded by ourselves? So that should bring to mind Finito to quickly came in to attend those meetings. It's not hard, and I don't think it's rocket science to start thinking about those type of ideas on the side. We just need to support those type of initiatives. Very well last night during our lecture. If you want it, plan for it and let's go get it. No, we're just talking about it by word of just universe. That's all now, hoping for a miracle to happen. So the opportunity is there to leverage it, or besides rugby league. Why don't we promote soccer as a way of bringing the other Melanesian countries to the table to support our initiatives? I mean, soccer is still played by Papuans too. And it could be the same question was what potential the soccer experience of power in the region? What potential could have to address experiences of power in the region? Just like we are. So we look at rugby league, we look at cricket, we look at lifting. You know, imagine bringing the sports of cricket up into the highlands. Oh my goodness, all powerful Mangitas will be having six, all hitting boundaries all the time. Then we proper watching. Oh no, the possibilities are huge. But then those must come into play. But with the amount of training and opportunities, a lot of opportunities for PNG to live. But again, it goes back to the foreign policy white paper. Is that included in it, or are they expecting uh, at the operational level for some magic to appear at the operational level to drive it?
Okay, Mr. Ako, thank you. We move on to the third question. We're having technical issues, so we can hear most of the things you're saying, and then for some instances it goes off and comes back again. So sorry for that. We'll move on to the third and final question for this afternoon's Q&A. The third question is, what are the challenges and opportunities, or what challenges and opportunities might arise from incorporating rugby league into PNG's formal foreign policy initiatives in multilateral settings such as the Pacific Islands Forum?
I'll answer it with another question.
Mhm.
Bureaucrats who are in are developing the foreign policy have actually played rugby league. If you haven't played it, then what background idea will you have to drive a sports agenda if you haven't even played sports? How how are you going to go and negotiate coming up with don't even if you haven't even played any team sports, you know? How are we going to understand the actual dynamics of sports as a multiplayer effect in diplomacy? So those are the changes. The main challenge is the capacity to attend what, yes, yesterday we got capacity in the foreign service on digital diplomacy. And now here it's the same thing again. The capacity challenges in the foreign service on sport diplomacy. That's the biggest challenge is capacity. And then once we build on the capacity, we have to ask again whether it has been included as part of people-to-people connectivity or something along those lines in the foreign policy white paper, which we hope, which we are looking for, which launch in next year. Then we can actually see where sports comes. Sports is a effect. Sports multiplies a lot of what.
Sorry, Mr. Ako, are you are you still continuing on with answering the question, or you stop? Or is it due to the technical issue from your end?
Did you hear the last part?
No, it went off.
No,
We
no.
we were not able to
I've
hear.
paused there. I've paused there, giving it back to you.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
I've given
Sorry.
the mental mic back. Okay, okay. I'll try again. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you
I can answer it again.
now. Okay. Please, that'll be good. We missed
Okay.
out
I'll answer the question again.
yeah.
Yes. In answer to your question on the challenges and opportunities that might arise from incorporating rugby league in the foreign policy initiatives, I'd like to answer that with a question. Uh, how many bureaucrats involved in the foreign policy initiating the foreign policy have actually played rugby league in their career or in their life, which will qualify them to actually sit down and start looking at negotiating the opportunities there to balance it with their foreign policy and sports initiative. Or rather, how many have actually played any team sports? And I say that out of respect, of malice or anything. No, playing team sports is a multilateral affair. You are communicating and negotiating with your own team members in the team, as against playing in the playing versus the other side. So that is a skill one will require when you're trying to bring an idea such as rugby league and include it in our foreign policy to drive a national agenda. I'll stop there.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ako. I believe Antonia and Miss Levy and your group, you have a few questions or one or two questions for Mr. Ako. Antonia representing a group. They have a few questions for you, Mr. Ako. So we give them the space to ask.
Yeah, how will I
Yeah.
video?
Yeah. Should work.
You can switch the video on or you can just ask Mr. Ako. Then you might to take your questions.
Hi, Mr. Yagir and Mr. Ako. I'll be asking instead of Antonia for our group the questions.
Okay, thank you. Please go ahead.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right. I have 3 questions for Mr. Ako, but I'll start with the first one, and you can answer. The first question is, by fielding a PNG NRL team, security seems to be one of the major challenges, considering the possibility that some of the NRL games might be held in PNG. Because, Papua New Guineans are very passionate about rugby, and sometimes it escalates and becomes a security concern. So, what would be a recommendation from you on how to mitigate these security issues?
That's a truly a very hard question because knowing that the crowd always run onto the field after the game to congratulate their favorite players. And then along the process, their favorite players start to the trousers and their sportswears and their rugby boots and socks and stuff. And it can be viewed differently from overseas, although those are given freely when people ask for the spikes or one more Barausim give him sportswear, Barausim give him. So it's managing the expectation, managing the perception, managing perception. Now, if you decide to bring the game out to the provinces, then the infrastructure will not start. While it's more peaceful out in the provinces, not so robust like how the players watch rugby. But then that attitude has changed. I feel that attitude has changed. We watch the Digital Cup finals, the final series. No one ran onto the field. Everybody respected the security in place, and they just sat there and cheered on their teams. And it's a far cry from the SP Intercity Cup of 20 years ago, where you would play and worry about the opponent and also worry about the people outside. So I don't see any issues in managing the security because now it's at the NRL level now, and when you watch NRL games, you see the securities around the field facing out, not watching the game, but they're looking. And I think those are some of the things that will be included. And this the program I was talking about, the 2 programs I was talking about League Life, League for Life, and just yeah, League Long Life, and all those are part of the capacity building efforts, which we have about 5-6 years to do. So that's big enough time. And within that time, more hunters players will come into line and they'll be going back and forth to Australia. So looking as that mind changing is happening, the a seasonal workers program going in at another angle again. The seasonal workers program is happening, and note very well that most of the country clubs are utilizing our seasonal workers to field teams. You know, just a couple of weeks ago, there was a story on how the seasonal workers went and gave rebate to a club that was nearly extinct because no players. So I think security will be managed. It will be managed because it's at a very professional level now, and people will leave no room to ensure that those other how much per club, the other 18 clubs are cared for. Yeah.
Anna, you can ask your next question.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ako, for your answer. My second question is regarding the criticisms from Australians, especially since the news came out that the Australian government gave 600 million to PNG for this purpose. And a lot of the criticisms from Australian citizens regarding the fact that most of the funds would come from the taxpayers' money, I think. But my question is it a loss for Australia, especially since cricket is their national sport, not rugby league? Rugby league, if I'm correct, is only played by two states, which are Queensland and New South Wales, or I think Victoria too. But yeah, mostly those two states. So would it be a loss for Australia, and are their concerns justifiable?
Looking at that, looking at the situation from a PNG lens, it can look like a loss. But we must know very well that Australia is a developed economy. It's got hundreds of companies that are already processing $1 million through their systems. All those clubs, they are managed professionally and they're making money. Of course, you need to make money to survive in the comp. So when we look at it from a PNG lens, yes, it's a loss. But then their government budget has been budgeting our development agenda for the last 100 years or so, even before independence, from right straight after the war up to 1975. The PNG development budget has been taken care of mostly by the Australian budget. So it can look like a loss, and we have to note very well that their system of government is different from ours. They have a state system where the states are empowered to make their own revenue. So it requires a clear head for thinking to differentiate the two systems, and then look at it from both angles. Where pretend that you're an Australian, and if you're an Australian, how would you look at it? And when we put on our PNG cap, that's when we decide we realize that something's not right based on our way of thinking. That's my own personal thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Ako. I have a last question. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. So my last question is regarding the rugby talent. Do you think that PNG has the rugby talent, especially since most of all of the PNG Kumul's games with the Australian national team, they lose by a very large margin. And unlike the other Pacific Island countries, we do not have a lot of experienced players at the level of probably Justin Nolam or David Mead. And maybe because Australia, they have junior footy clubs for boys and they train them since they're young. We do not have that in PNG, and maybe they're just trying to start it now since they're trying to organize the PNG NRL bid. So do you think right now is the right time to field a PNG NRL team, or should they do it later on? Like, do you think they're just using it for, they're just doing it because of geopolitical purposes to counter China's influence in the Pacific?
Now's the right time. Now's the right time for everything you mentioned. And you only have to look at the rise of Marcus Bai and Justin Olam, the talent they brought at that later age to go and perform in the NRL. So there's no issue on the talent. And if we start teaching them young, they'll go much more further than what our two rugby stars have achieved. That's how I see it. Everything you mentioned, those are the reasons, and now is the time to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Ako. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Anel, and your group, and thank you, Mr. Ako, for sharing with us your answers in relation to the 3 questions asked by Anel and a group, and also the 3 questions that that were asked by me. And like what Mr. Ako said, now is the time. I think, yeah, now is the time. We have to start off somewhere by having in place this new team that will join the NRL competition. Then that will help us to try to go down to the next level, or go down, fix our junior pathway and other pathways leading up, not only for males but females as well. And then, we see rugby league more as an employment, an opportunity for work, vocation, and we commercialize it, make it become a commercial sport that we play, and the players, they earn money from it, just like the NRL, or just like NBA in America, or soccer in Europe, where players, athletes, they earn a lot of money. So we have to start off somewhere. So if it means to piggyback off Australia's money, Australian taxpayers' money, then I think that ends justify the means, as what Machiavelli said. So if Australia is willing to help us, maybe because of the China threat factor, or for any other reason, maybe because over the years since after independence, they did not help us to progress to a level where we should be at, in order to help support them in the region, then for whatever reason or factor that they choose to support us, I mean, that's up to them. But the important thing is, we as Papua New Guineans, we see this as an opportunity to, create employment for our youths, for the next generation. Not only will rugby league players or athletes have a team and play and earn money, but also you look at physiotherapists graduating out of Divine University, doctors who can specialize in sports medicine, and business administrators or managers will manage the players and manage the game, run the different franchises and the rugby league competition as a whole. So that's something that we should look forward to, and the amount of money coming in from corporate sponsors and other stakeholders of the game. So it will generate a lot of money, like what Wapu Song has shared on Facebook and in other social media spaces. So I agree with Wapu Song as well as Mr. Ako that it's now or never, and we also need to take that opportunity and make the most of it. Mr. Ako said something. He said, Minister Anopala mentioned it clearly at yesterday's DPP launching when during his speech in response to Minister Conroy's statement, he said, make your money and make your aid money work and not only fund technical expertise and consultants. Yeah. All right. So we look forward to this particular program that will be run by Australian DFED in collaboration with PNG RFL and the PNG government, the Australian government, and other stakeholders. So for me, I think it's an opportunity and we have to start now, and we have to be optimistic about what is in store for us in the future. And just to add on to the discussion, anybody want to say anything before we wind up? We have technical issues at the moment, so it's really difficult for Mr. Ako to connect and talk with us. Anil, you have anything to say before we wind up? Since you and your team are working on this particular issue, and in a few weeks' time, you'll be presenting your research to us. We'll give you the.
Sorry, I just have one more thing to add. This is something that came up a lot when we were discussing in our group. So many people were, and most comments on Facebook too, and from my group members, they were mentioning that PNG right now has a lot of developmental issues with health and education and all this. So would the money be more beneficial for the sports industry like rugby, or should it be put into these other sectors first before thinking about rugby? And that's something I was thinking of, and I wanted to get your opinion on it.
Mr. Ako, you can go first.
Health and education have been the major recipients of budgets since 1975. And nothing much, people we are still complaining about those services because we can see with our own eyes that while they've been the major recipients of the budget, the outcomes are not being seen. And like in answering your question, like what Mr. Aguirre said, so maybe invest the money this way and educate physiotherapists and sports doctors, and in that angle. And then in that process, we could work towards creating a university for health to support all those needs. That's how I would look at it, because we've been talking about building hospitals and infrastructure only, but I think what we've been not talking about loudly is building the human capital to support those infrastructure. And maybe that's another angle we should consider taking. Mr. Aguirre?
Yeah, I mean, you said it well. Also, maybe put money into training more physical education teachers up at the University of Goroka. So we maybe contextualize. We say education and health, but then we focus on sports education and health or something like that. But like what you have said, over the years, we've poured a lot of money into not only internal revenue, but donor money into health and education. The health and education sector has absorbed a lot of money every year. Every year, the budget, you see, there's a huge chunk of the budget goes to health and education, but the indicators are not there, to show higher education or primary, secondary education and health. The indicators are not good. We're not seeing any, changes there. So while we can say that we should put money there instead of sports, maybe we take a different approach, try rugby league, and then, like I said, fund the teaching of rugby league or put money into sports education and sports health, and then see how our physiotherapists and doctors and physical education teachers will drive the agenda forward, and whether or not it will bring any tangible changes. And sports, the other good side of sport is discipline, commitment, and dedication. Those core values. We say military training also instill discipline, but sports as well. So si sportsman, na keke buhay, smoke plenty, drink plenty beer na Saturday you go play, Friday. You have to be committed, no alcohol and no cigarettes, no eating of food that is not good for the body. So you have to prepare yourself before you take the field. So PNG now, we need discipline. We see there's a lot of lawlessness in our communities right across, not only Medellin or Mosby, up in the islands, East Sepik, West Sepik, even Alatau as well. There's a lot of criminal gangs running around and nobody's playing sport and going to the field and disciplining themselves, going for training every day. So maybe, sports might change our culture and our attitude in the long run. So, yeah. Opportunity cost, imi raw si Manilo on the sector, na imi buto on the sector. Naplava one, but then we have to see how best we can. It's all about decision making. We invest in one sector and see how it will have an effect on the other sectors. So, I mean, that's my take on that.
Thank you, Mr. Edgar and Mr. Ako.
All right, thank you, Anel. I think Emta Sol, Mr. Ako, got some last something to TikTok. No, got pay me wind up or some. I want to thank all of you for
No,
attending.
I think wind up now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So thank all of
Another
you.
successful year for us, and I'm still on emails and stuff. So anything, text me.
All right.
Then we can
Okay, so
Mm.
Anel and all the others, if you have any questions or comments in relation to your case study that you're working on, we have Mr. Ako on call. You have his email. You can contact him via email and ask him questions related to your case study. So in a few weeks' time, both of us will be listening and marking your case study. You'll be presenting via Zoom as well, and we'll live stream in the Facebook group, PNG Foreign Policy Community. But with that, I thank all you attendees on Zoom and those watching via Facebook, Ms. Baptiste and your class. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. And also those who will be watching via YouTube, thank you as well for spending your time for selecting Mr. Ako's channel and viewing this video. But Tok Foreign Policy bago yet, we'll continue to talk. We've now created a WhatsApp group, so we're trying to get all the experts into the group, both practitioners and academics, to help us understand our country and the way we conduct our diplomacy and foreign policy. So this will enrich our discussions hopefully next year onwards. So we are doing that. And also we are now in the process of collecting data to help us write a postgraduate program on PNG's foreign policy. Mr. Ako and I, that's our next project that is in the pipeline. We are now putting it forward to the department, and once we get the approval, then we'll start our survey. So I hope all of you will participate in our survey, students, alumni, and other interested parties or stakeholders. We're trying to design a postgraduate program, so you will help us determine what type of program we will offer in foreign policy or international relations. So once we get the approval, then we'll share the survey link with all of you so you can participate. So hopefully we have a postgraduate homegrown program that is a continuation from this particular unit and the inspiration it has given us to pursue that. And it will be homegrown. We'll try to contextualize it to Papua New Guinea's needs and the market needs of the market now at the moment, as well as topics that are relevant to the country in line with the Vision 2050, the Strategic Development Plan, and the Medium-Term Development Plan. And we'll try to incorporate both theory and practical. So thinking of offering it in Port Moresby, and then we have practical elements to it. So tiri-tiri tasol ni ba sleep lo attending class na. Tok-tok lo. Or scholars na. Or readings na or something, but we have practical things, diplomatic note taking, foreign policy writing, treaty making, etc., etc. Okay, so Friday afternoon to you, sorry everyone for dragging on, but thank you, Mr. Ako, once again for your insight and your knowledge. I believe all of us have gained a lot over the past couple of weeks, and we will continue to pass you on, continue to learn more about PNG's foreign policy and contribute to nation building. That's all.
My greatest pleasure. School good. Na pass. Okay. All the
All right.
best. God bless.
Okay, bye for now.